Okay. Do I really need to do an intro for this video? It's one of the most badass guitar songs of all time, and you can chug beer to it. Let's go. Hey kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Over my many years as a guitar teacher and touring musician, I've learned thousands of songs, and they've all taught me something that stuck with me and helped me along the way. Mastering tunes makes us better players, and that's why every guitarist should learn Panama by Van Halen. Well, hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Released the same year that I was born, Panama by Van Halen remains one of the greatest guitar songs of all time. But it holds that rare distinction of being one of those moments of incredible genius virtuosity that you can also party to. Because that's really what made Van Halen amazing, right? It's the ability to take the most genius guitar playing of all time and still somehow make it palatable to your average rock listener. On today's video, I'm going to take you guys on a deep dive through this tune and show you why you ought to start learning it today. As always, today's video is brought to you guys by all of my cult members, supporters over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Sign up today for all kinds of bonus goodies, like extra videos, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more. This week, everybody who supports my channel, even for just $1 a month, gets access to a very special, super extended, and ad-free cut of this video with more of everything and 0 of those pesky ads. So don't delay, sign up today. Patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Not a cult. Might be a cult. Now for me, one of the reasons I wanted to learn this tune is so I could bust out some of my favorite pieces of gear, like this lovely swirled Suhr Modern. This bad Larry's got bare knuckle pickups in it. It's got that Holy Diver bridge pickup that I'll be using through the whole video. I think it sounds choice. I'm playing that through the amazing Marshall 1987X 50-watt Plexi, and the real secret weapon is in front of the amp. It's the Carl Martin Plexi Tone pedal, which I think sounds divine. And I'm playing all that cool guy stuff through the UA aux. Tuning wise, we're going to be down a half step today to D#, as the young kids call it. I've also got that B string tuned slightly flat Eddie style. Now, let's get into it. So like I said earlier, this song strikes the rare balance of being extremely highbrow and yet incredibly consumable at the same time. And especially when you look at this time period of Eddie, this is when he was really diving headfirst into more progressive stuff, you know? He said himself that the outro solo of Drop Dead Legs was inspired by Alan Holdsworth's playing. Girl Gone Bad off this same record is super progressive. And there's a lot of weird proggy stuff that sneaks its way into the song that I actually never really noticed until I prowled through the isolated guitar track, which I found right here on YouTube. In order for you to be prepared for some of the more progressive moments of this song, I've designed a system of prog alerts that you're going to be getting throughout this video to let you know when something particularly highbrow is about to happen. So be on the watch for the prog alerts throughout this video. And I hate to tell you, but this song kicks off with a level 4 prog alert. And that's mostly in regards to the timing of the intro riff of this, which is something that's mystified guitar players for years. Long story short, the first chord that we play here comes in on the upbeat of beat number 1. Let me use my metronome here and demonstrate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and. Hear that? Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Like that right there. To help you learn this more better, I'm going to redirect you to another guy's channel because I watched this video over on Danny Eddy's channel just the other day where he really broke down the timing of that intro, and I think it's absolutely perfect. If I was trying to explain to you how to identify where the 1 is in this section, I would just be ripping off everything that Danny already did. So let's save me the time of programming drums and everything and just have you go watch his video because it's absolutely brilliant. Tell him Uncle Ben sent you. Editing chair, Uncle Ben here. I just want to add in that I think that this song is probably the peak of all Van Halen songs lyrically because it's both about a car and girl. It might be about a girl car, which might be the most Van Halen thing you could ever think of. Also, don't really know how Panama ties into this. There's really nothing about this song that geographically links it to Panama. There's nothing about a canal the entire song. So I don't really get that part. But the fact that it's about a girl car is super sick. Let's dig around on these chords here and see if we find anything suspiciously proggy. So right there we got our E major to E sus4, a Van Halen classic. But then what do we have here? What the fuck? That's not a beer drinking chord, that's a high dollar Steely Dan chord. Sometimes the Steely Dan guys would call this the Mu major chord. There's entire YouTube essays all about this chord type and exactly what it is, because it's kind of ambiguous and mysterious. But yeah, I'm afraid to say that one chord right there has earned this level 2 prog alert. This song is also like an encyclopedia of all the different pick scrapes you can do. Some of them are just straight scrapes. Some of them have the pass off, like what I did there, where it starts off with the pick scrape and then goes to like a hand slide. That's my favorite one. Yeah, this thing is just an encyclopedia of cool ways to get from riff to riff, so be sure to study all those little details as you go too. Here's an interesting thing about that intro section that I never noticed until I started making this video. For one, it never comes back to that stuff again. Iconic ass riffs. Eddie uses them once and throws them in the trash. That's insane. If I wrote riffs that cool, I'd be like, that has to be featured through the entire song. But I think Eddie and the band knew that those riffs were so awesome that even if they just got played once at the first of the tune, you'd still remember them by the end, and they were exactly right. Okay, let's talk about that cool lick with the harmonics. Again, just insanely iconic, to the point to where you can hear those 3 notes in any other song and be like, oh, that's the Panama chord. It's directly quoted in Round and Round by Rap. But you may not have noticed this before, but he does it differently every single time that he plays it in the song. It's in there like 3 or 4 times, and they're all slightly different. Sometimes it's this. Sometimes it's a little bit more strummy and loose. It's all over the map, and it's just based on however Eddie was feeling at that point in the take. It's also one of the really cool things about being the only guitar player in a band, is if you're not having to have some other guy follow along with you, you can just make those spur-of-the-moment decisions like that. You gotta be really delicate when you play those harmonics too, especially if your guitar has pretty low action like mine does, because those harmonics around the 4th fret of the G and B are really delicate. If you're fretting slightly too hard, it's enough to where they just choke out like that. Yeah, that's really tough to get. You gotta be super gentle. And good luck to you out there if you got yourself a big pair of those burly dick skinner mitts. Probably makes it a little bit more difficult to get those done gently. Now I said earlier how Eddie wove his prog influences into this song, but the main riff of the tune here also shows one of Eddie's biggest influences. Just imagine if you took that riff and gave it some loods and slowed it down and put like a steady backbeat kind of drum part behind it. It sounds just like a classic AC/DC riff. What I've always told my students over the years is to feel the pulse of that E, A, and D chord first. And then just fill in the spaces between those chords with the root note chugs on the E, A, and D strings. see a lot of people play that like this, like an open A power chord to a fretted G. And he actually does that like one time in the song. I think it's maybe in the first chorus. I want to say the very first time through he plays it that way. But every other time he's playing that little sliding bar on the A and D strings. The first part of the tune features some fingerstyle chords and some classic 80s pedal tone action happening on the bass. Let's check this out. Again, varying opinions on how Eddie played this part, but it sounds like to me on the album he's stowing the pick and playing this fingerstyle, but I might be wrong about that, who knows. So you'll notice that I take the pick from my usual grip, or my like Eddie Van Halen style 3-finger grip, and all that I'm doing there is I'm taking the pick and sliding it in between the first and second knuckles of that finger. This is a really great way just to get the pick in and out of your hands. You know, it's kind of a sleight of hand trick like that. It's between my first two fingers, now it's stowed. That way I can go back and forth between the fingerstyle playing and the pick stuff that we're going to need later on. So you'll notice that underneath all these chords that are implied, which is kind of like E, and then we have kind of E minor, then A, then a D sus2. Michael is playing E behind all of those chords. Actually, Michael has played E the entire time since we hit the main riff of the song. I'm pretty sure the drummer from Def Leppard could handle this bass line. But that's one of those classic 80s sounds, right? The sound of one bass note being used against multiple different chords. Kind of like what you hear in Turn Up the Radio by Autograph. Now that's a song I would love to do one of these videos on. Let me know in the comments section if you guys would like to see that. I've got a whole video about that secret sound of the 80s right here on my channel. I recommend checking that out if you want to learn more about that pedal tone power. Now most of the time, whenever Eddie plays the E chord, he's got the same pattern on the open low E string. It sounds like this. Kind of a muted thing with some punches in there. But I had never noticed until I was about to make this video and I found the isolated track and listened through it, that in the second verse of the song, there's this weird gallopy thing Eddie does one time. Sounds like this. Check this out. I had never noticed that in the mix until I heard it right there on the track. Pretty cool stuff. I'm thinking he's using the pick for those. They have a little bit more snap to them than, you know, doing it fingerstyle like that would. So I think he's unstowing the pick and hitting those with the plastic. And I gotta say, hearing the harmonic complexity of having a single bass note with all these different chord triads floating around above it, I think that's earned this section a level 1 prog alert. Now, the pre-chorus of the tune features some chords that I had apparently been playing wrong for my entire life. Sounds something like this, I think. Editing chair Uncle Ben here. That first picking pattern should have started with the high E, you nerd. Get it right next time. Did you hear those high dollar chords? The interest rate alone on chords like that is going to eat you alive in this economy. Those are straight out of the Alex Lifeson playbook, which I think earns this a level 3 prog alert. Look out. So most transcriptions of this I see feature the good old F sharp 7 add 11 chord. You know, the fucking Dream Theater Metropolis chord. Nerd alert. But if you listen on the isolated track, you'll hear it doesn't have that A sharp note in it. You'll hear this. It's more of a really open, very suspended kind of sound. I don't know if he's using like a 3-finger stack like this, or maybe if he's even leaving out that middle F sharp note. I'm not sure, but it's got that really wide open, again, Alex Lifeson kind of sound. He doesn't introduce the A sharp note until he starts arpeggiating it. Missed the high E again, nerd. And then this guy, most times I see people play this like it's a C sharp minor chord, or maybe put the open high E string in it. But it's actually just like a 3-note power chord with the open B and E strings on it. At least you got it right once in there. Uh-oh, we've got a red alert on our hands here, guys. We had a dominant on the 2 followed by the 6 chord, and then after this we have some chromaticism leading down to a resolution on the 5 to lead us back to the resolution of the 1. This is worse than I imagined. This is a level 5 prog alert. And yet, hearing all that highbrow sophisticated stuff does nothing but provoke my desire to crush beer. Yeah. So we all rightfully idolize Eddie and think of him as this insane guitar virtuoso that just came out of nowhere. But he had influences just like we did. I mentioned Holdsworth, I mentioned AC/DC, but he was also huge fans of Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton, the old gods of guitar. And if you think about the first couple licks that he plays in the solo, you can really hear that DNA. This little move, that's about as Eddie as you can get, right? You do like a bend and then dip it with the bar, and as you're dipping it, you're bending it up more. It's kind of cool because whenever you dip the bar, it's making the string go looser, right? Which makes it kind of easier to get the string up there to the top point of the bend. I don't know, something like that. Those licks are so hard to nail because it's just this flurry of notes, this avalanche that's out of time. It's not like to the grid at all, and it's just operating at the speed of Eddie's brain and fingers, which I definitely don't have. It's almost like 2 licks in one is how I'm thinking of it. You got the that starts it, and then after this we have this kind of 2-part lick. Then you play it again. Then you have this incomplete one. And I think that's what he's doing. Sometimes I see people play that lick using Eddie's hammer-on from nowhere technique, where you pick, like, let's say the high E string note, and then instead of picking this note on the B string, you just kind of smack it on using a hammer-on with a little finger. So you're hearing 3 notes, but I'm only picking one of them. It's also a huge like Nuno-ism, and that's where he got it from. He's got that note that he's bending up a whole step on the G string and leaving it bent while he taps with the picking hand. Now whenever you're doing this, you kind of got to put your typical scale patterns and stuff to the side, because now these notes aren't what you think they are. They're sounding out a whole step higher than they should because the string is being bent. So for example, usually if I tap this note, it would sound out as a G, right? But if I'm bending that string up a whole step, it sounds out as an A instead. So you got to kind of reconfigure your position of the notes if you're a play-by-the-notes kind of guy whenever you do these sort of licks. Just remember, you're changing the tuning over here in the left hand, so you have to compensate for that over here with the picking hand. Little word of advice about the technique here. You'll notice that I'm pulling the G string down, just the way your mother likes it, because that leaves me a little bit of room to tap upwards on the G without risking hitting the D string, right? That leads us into the bridge section of the song, which features a tonality that sounds like E minor, all the way down to a C Lydian tonality. So far this song has been in the key of what I call E rock. No, not that E rock. I mean rock in the key of E, where it's kind of major, kind of minor, you know? It's sort of the happy minor, you know what I mean? But when it gets to the bridge section of the song here, we are very heavily in E minor turf with that E minor to C Lydian kind of sound. Kind of reminds me of the bridge of Still of the Night by Whitesnake. And then out of nowhere here in the bridge, we get this guy. Again, another chord I've played wrong forever. I just thought he played the typical kind of F bar chord with the open strings. But it's actually not that at all. It's got the 6 in there. meaning the open D string. We've had a tonality shift. We had this Lydian thing going on, this borrowed F Lydian chord, which would be like transposing over to the key of C, which is backwards in the circle of fifths and accessing its 4 chord for that F Lydian sound. Oh no. There's all kinds of stuff going on right here. You know what that means. This is a stage 5 prog alert. Quick, we better drink some beer about it and make it go away. It's working, keep going. There we go, we got it. Boy, that was a really close call with that last prog alert. Hopefully there's nothing else weird in the song coming up after that. A full chromatic apparition resolving to the 5, which is going to take us back to the 1 to go to the chorus. How can this be? It's a level 7 prog alert. What's happening? What? I see a lot of people play this as just single notes walking up. And that's okay, but you'll notice whenever he plays the F, it's got this A note in there, which he keeps when he goes to this, kind of giving us a D over F sharp kind of tonality. Up to G, and then this guy is really ambiguous. He just kind of smacks through the open strings the first time and then mutes them. That's a really strange one. We've got the open D and G strings in there. Awesome stuff. It's really highbrow harmonic concepts like that. It's the virtuoso thing, it's the blues thing, it's the arena rock thing. Van Halen is everything, right? It's just amazing to me that he was able to sneak so much awesome stuff into a package that's still totally accessible to people that don't play guitar. I mean, Van Halen is one of the biggest rock bands of all time, right? Do you think all their fans are guitar players? Hardly. They made great songs that just happened to feature the most unbelievable guitar playing ever recorded. But nobody would have ever heard it if it was just in a package that was meant for guitar players only, right? This stuff is rooted thoroughly in the cool guy zone, and all are allowed. So there you go, guys, some insight into why you ought to be learning one of the most sophisticated party rockin' tunes of all time, Panama by Van Halen. Now, this wasn't necessarily a note-by-note lesson on how to play it, but if it has inspired you to learn how to play the tune, I recommend heading over to my friend Brett Papa's channel. He's got a Panama tutorial he put up about 2 years ago that is super ultra in-depth. I'm talking like down to the note and the little variations that he plays on the riff every single time. Brett covers it all, and his tone is buck nasty. It's like actually perfect, pretty insane. So if you want a really great in-depth lesson on how to play this tune, be sure to check out his channel, watch that video, and tell him Uncle Ben sent you. I'd like to raise a toast of whatever you happen to have in your midst to the late great Eddie Van Halen for being the greatest guitar player of all time. I've got myself a beer by a local brewery here, good old Zool. Check out Zool Beer if you're ever here in Knoxville. They make some great stuff. Cheers to Eddie. And cheers to you guys for liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and ringing the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. If you guys like this video and want to get even more out of it, check out the extended and ad-free cut available to everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Sign up today, even for just $1 a month. It's going to get you access to that video and tons of other goodies. Well, guys, it's been fun as always, but it's about time for me to get in the kitchen and go make ourselves some dinner. As for you guys, I recommend that you get away from the computer machine here and go mash some rope in the name of Eddie. Less clicking, more picking.